All right, everybody, look, I'm going, I'm almost there. Just give me a moment. All right, I'm making it to my car, okay? I'm making it to my car, and look, don't judge me for what it looks like inside, all right? Come on. All right, whew, all right, whew, finally. All right, you know how, you ever looked at like a YouTube channel or like an Instagram or a TikTok video, and the person is talking to everybody who's listening and looking at the video. They're talking to them from their car, right? Because they want to make that intimate feel for the person who's on the other side. So is this cozy? Is this intimate? Yeah, I'm cracking my own self up. All right. So we're having this cozy, intimate moment in my car. All right. So let's talk a little bit. This particular professional development is dealing with annotating text. And I know that back in either October or November, Ms. Blunt and Ms. Odom actually did this professional development for us, and I just want to give them a shout out. Yes. Because I'm going back over exactly what they talked about, and I'm using some of their material so that we can talk about annotating text. I noticed that during testing, the students were taking that white sheet of paper, you know, the one we give them for scratch paper, the one we expect them to number from like 1 to 25 if the question goes from, or the test goes from 1 to 25. Well, you might see 1 to 2 up there for trying to justify answers. Even with math, okay? You might see like one number. I'm not talking about the actual problem, solving the problem, one number. All right, and then they select whatever they decide to select. Okay, but here's the kicker though. Okay, then we have the ones that we never knew would be famous someday. Okay, so I'm speaking it out in the future, and those famous people, when I look at their scratch paper, okay, they love art. That's right, we got lots of artists that right here at Azalea. They'll do an anime character in a heartbeat, and you know what? When they turn in that sheet of paper, okay, it might have their name on it because they, you know, you got to autograph art, okay? And then they turn it in and say, here, I'm done. I have submitted my test. All right? So we saw that a lot this time around, or rather, I saw that a lot this time around. So I know we've been teaching them about how to annotate text, but we're going to delve into it a little bit more. And that way I can give you professional development points. I'm giving you love. Plus, you know, we're in an intimate setting. so we can talk about this. I know sometimes it feels like, wow, you know, there's so much on me. I'm trying to teach this curriculum. I'm trying to stick with the pacing guide. But part of checking for understanding happens to be whether they can tell you exactly where they received answers from. And just like I tell English students all the time, that if they're doing a reading test, for the most part, the answer's right there in the text. All they have to do is read the passage. And if they know how to justify their answers, especially on that white, clean sheet of paper that might have their initials on it, then that's more than half the battle. That's like 80%, you know. Now, granted, they'll ask about vocabulary. They'll say, what is a setting? And you really have to know the definition. But other than that, the rest of it, the answers are right in the passage. It's right in the text. But we have to teach our students how to pull it out. And I'm not just talking about our core classes for math, science, social studies, and English. I'm talking about for all core classes, because we're trying to give them also college ready. And so they have to take tests regardless. It doesn't matter whether it's in your class and you're an elective teacher, or, you know, you're not a core subject class. These students have to learn how to pick out certain information within the text. And what better way to do that, even if it's math, what better way to check for understanding than to just go ahead and use that white sheet of paper, number from like 1 to 25, and section off everything and use it for each and every number. So when I was teaching, I used to do this all the time with my classes, and I'm telling you, I had 80% or above every time for SOL testing because I took the time out and I made sure that they did it. It was so ingrained in them that it was kind of like breathing. You know how when, you're just talking, going about your day and you don't even think about breathing? I mean, I know you're thinking about it right now because I'm talking about breathing, but that's how it should be. So I had all of my 11th and 12th graders, like, they were really invested, but maybe it was because of graduation, I don't know, but I took the time out to start training them on how to actually pull out those words and pull out those phrases and actually take the time out to analyze 1 through 25. And you know what? I gave them work. I gave them, not work, but I gave them grades for it. Like, they really received hardcore grades for justifying the answer. And not only that, but just actually doing the work. So sometimes I would give them 2 grades. Okay, just so they'll start doing that. And I told them how important it was for SOL testing. And I know I'm talking to you a lot. So we're going to go back over annotating text. And a shout out to Dr. Manshala because she does it in her classroom all the time. And if you don't know how to analyze text or don't know how to annotate text and take it apart and teach it to your students, she's definitely doing it. Like, her students are like so quiet. Sometimes you go in there and hear a pin drop, and they're all in it, all invested in it, learning how to take things apart. And so, that's a great example, Dr. Mashala. Hats off to you. And so we're going to go ahead and try to perfect this so that when the students take their test in about 50 days or 20 some odd days, because one of those tests was in 20 some odd days, okay, then they'll know how to do it. But not only know how to do it for test taking, they'll know how to do it for any subject area. So come on, let's go ahead and do this. And again, like I said, Miss Odom, Miss Blunt, thank you, because we're going back over exactly what you taught. All right, here we go. Intimate moment. All right. All right, so welcome back to another Tech Talk. Today we're going to take a look at annotation. We're going to revisit what Ms. Odom and Ms. Blunt actually taught us a couple of months ago. We're going to take a look at the purpose, the examples, and some of the uses of annotation. We're going to look at some tips just so we kind of remember what that's all about. We're going to take a look at sample annotations and Azalea Gardens annotation activity that we did when Ms. Blunt and Ms. Odom actually did their professional development. We're also going to look at some free teacher pay teacher information as well as conclude. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the purpose and the example or examples of annotation and why we actually use it. Now remember, the students are going to be testing in about 20 some days and 50 some days. So this is a great way to teach them how to use that white scratch sheet of paper in order to write down all of their notes, their answers, and keywords. So an annotation is a note or explanation that is added to text or image. Annotations can be used in a variety of ways, such as adding information to a page, adding information to the end of a publication, presenting in the margins of a book. So they can scribble over to the side just to make sure that they are able to write down their notes based on what they are reading within a passage. All right. So some other things that are examples of annotation. For example, they can underline words for key points. So anything that the question is asking them, they can actually underline. They can highlight vocabulary. They can circle transition points so that they know that they're going from one main idea to the next. They can create notes based on questions related to the passage. And sometimes I know that I write over on the side too. They can write down their thoughts about a reading or image, or explain the meaning of a reading, subject, or image by creating their own definition. So that way they can own it. And then they can write down what they actually observed about a reading or image. so they can start creating information in their head, start connecting the dots. And that's what we want them to do. So, how to use it? So, as the teacher or facilitator, you can create the following assignments for your students. For example, you can create an assignment that is descriptive. Provide a summary of the work, reading, or image that you are talking about in class. They can actually do a summary. Okay, so they can provide a summary report of everything that they've read. And they can definitely evaluate what they have been reading. They can write down their own questions with their own answers, so that's another part of evaluation. But they can criticize or include value judgments of the work, the reading, or the image. And you're going to hear me say image a lot because some of our classes, we use graphs, maps, and charts. So that's why you're going to hear me talk about image. So here's some tips for annotating text. Yes, I know you're excited about these tips because sometimes we forget when we're putting a lesson plan together, we forget how to do these things. Okay, so before we continue on, I just want to say don't forget to find the secret word within this video just so you can put it in that Google form so I know that you have actually watched this video. So tips for creating annotation include asking a question. So you can ask a question based on the reading, adding personal responses. So maybe you might have an idea, or the students might have an idea that they want to respond to. They can draw pictures or a symbol, summarize what they have read. They can write down keywords in a question or a sentence, and we want to show them how to find the keywords and highlight the answer to questions within the reading. So, yes, they are going to have a highlighter or a pencil or whatever it is that will allow them to find what they're looking for within the reading. So let's take a look at this. This is a tip or an example. So they can circle keywords. They can actually take a triangle and draw a triangle around challenging words, something that is challenging to them that they don't understand within the reading or the text. And sometimes that is very important to do. And then the rest of finding certain things, they can underline claims, they can draw question marks because they need clarity. I know that when I used to take tests, I used to put a question mark beside something that just didn't add up to me so I could go back and take a look at it within the reading. All right. They can also draw a star for general margin notes. So if it's an aha aha moment, then they go ahead and draw that star where that aha moment happens to be. So here's another tip. And these tips or these guides that I'm showing you right now, you can create your own rubric within your class. So for instance, the circle here should or might demonstrate powerful words and phrases. You might have them put quotes around words or phrases that they don't understand. Okay, so it might not be the question mark, but it might be a quote. Place a question mark next to the text that raises a question, and then place an exclamation point next to an idea that surprises you. So you can tell them that and they can have that aha moment. They can even put an arrow when they're making a connection. They can draw arrows and say, oh, from this point to this point, this works. You can have the EX for the author's examples. You can have some numbers there. They can write important thoughts to things that they connect with, and they can definitely write questions that they have about the readings. All of these things that they can write down within the margin or use that white sheet of paper to kind of help them. So here are some sample annotations because sometimes we are listening to all of this professional development, but we have no idea what a sample actually looks like. So let's take a look at sample one. Here you have parts that are highlighted. So I know that I last year was in a class at one of the other schools, and this lady had a whole bunch of highlighters, and she Velcroed them to every student's desk so that when it came to annotating, they had a highlighter and they could annotate certain points that she wanted to make based on, or she wanted them to find based on the rubric that she created for her class. She color coded each marker to represent either do you have a question about this, or is this an aha moment? So here's another thing too. So you can give your students a guide of what they're looking for and what you want to see when they're annotating text. So within this guide, here's where they circle important words. They might have an asterisk or they might have an exclamation mark with something that is a big idea within the reading. All right. Then they can number certain ideas. They can number certain things. They can add a plus to identify additional information that might go along with that particular question. Okay. And then, of course, they can use arrows or something that will connect other ideas within the reading. So here's something too for those classes that are not necessarily reading or math, but all the other classes. If you have an image that you want them to see, then they can write on that image. They can take that picture, that graph, and they can write down all of the information that they find within the picture. This information can also be used as vocabulary, okay? So when they have a test that has an image, it could be an art class, okay? It could be a map of Spain, and then you want them to mark certain things within that map or on that map. They are literally annotating, but they're not doing it with a reading passage. No, they're taking a picture and actually annotating and showing where certain things are. All right. So now let's take a look at Azalea Garden's annotation tool, what Ms. Blunt and Ms. Odom taught us the last professional development when they did their staff meeting. So with annotation, they gave us various activities to use, and it's right here in the table. They actually gave us the worksheet with all of this information in it. But you can definitely go back and talk to the ladies, and they will go back and show you certain things. Okay, and I'll probably do a short professional development, have a Zoom session where you guys come in and we can talk about annotating text if you're having issues with that. So that is something that I want to do within this week's time period because time is winding down. So they can build vocabulary within a topic. You can have them making predictions, making connections, clarifying. You can have them locating evidence. And they can even compare and contrast ideas in order to annotate a text. So you give them various ideas or various things that you want them to locate within the reading or within a picture or within a graph. And then they're able to locate those things. Okay. I know with math, when they are doing graphs, the graph is there, but then they have certain questions that are there, and the students can go ahead and find the answer to those questions and write on it, write on the graph so that they'll get that information. Okay. If it's a picture like an art class, okay, they can do the same thing. If it's health class and they're dealing with some part of the body or dealing with health, then they can go ahead and they can actually identify certain things. If you have them doing research with a primary source, they can use that, determine the author's viewpoint. That might be what you want them to do when they're annotating this time around. So here is the sheet that was given to us by Ms. Blunt and Ms. Odom. And with this sheet, up at the very top, you have those little squares of different colors, but these are different things that you can have the students to do. So what you're going to do is just pinpoint maybe 2 or 3 things. So whether it's making a prediction or making a connection, then you circle what you want the students to do, and you can add the text right underneath that so that the students know, okay, so I'm making a prediction here. So let's go and find those little areas to make that those prediction or that prediction. Okay. If you want them to circle aha moments or pinpoint, draw, underline an aha moment, then they can go ahead and do that. That is a part of annotating text. So this is how you use the sheet of paper, the PDF that the ladies have given you. Okay. Here's another one, the 4 square model. So we talked about this too. So as they're reading or looking over something that they're analyzing or observing, then they can tell you what they visualize. Okay. They can make inferences. All right. Making and building those connections, and then they can also write down questions based on the reading or based on the image that you're giving them. All of these things that they can do so that they can build a connection within their mind. And all of this while using that scratch white sheet of paper. They can do this during SOL testing. Use the white scratch sheet of paper, they can actually create the square. Here's the thing, you have to train them. Teach them how to do these things and have it as a daily routine. And remember, you can always grade them on what you want them to do. This is what I used to do for my students, okay? We used to make a chart. And with this chart, they numbered from 1 to how many questions there were. Then they can write down a part of the question, put it right there in a little box. Then they can add the key word. What key words are being asked of you, okay? And this is dealing with making predictions. Then they can make a prediction of what's going to happen next based on the evidence or supporting evidence that they have. So now they have the question, they have keywords, okay? They have what you want them to do. So when I say what you want them to do, if it was an SOL test, what is that question asking them to do? Is it asking them to locate something, describe something? So they can swap out that word in place of where it says prediction. So now let's look at something free. I love free. I know you probably love free, and free is great, absolutely great. So I found this online as a resource. I went to Teacher Pay Teacher, and normally Teacher Pay Teacher actually has it where you have to pay for something, but there's some things that are free. So if we're taking a look at this chart right here, if you have the kids like in elementary school, they'll fold up their sheet of paper and then they'll have all these different squares folded. Then they'll open it back up and number. They can have their questions on one side. What is the question asking? What kind of connection are you building? And here's a word choice. This is something that you can use and have the students to practice with this. I know in Dr. Manshala's class, they do something similar. They practice with this kind of formula. So here we have a step 2. You can ask certain questions. Like look at level 1. How does something fit into something else? Or where does this belong? Any of these things, inductive questions, you can ask them, what can you infer from this? All right. And analytical questions, how is blank connected to blank? So I'm giving you the questions, some examples of what you can use within your classroom. Because remember, we want our students to succeed. And it can only happen if we train them. So in conclusion, yes. All right, we looked at purpose and examples, tips for annotating text. We looked at sample annotations. We also went back to take a look at Azalea Garden's annotation activity table. Then we looked at, I gave you something for free. It's always good to get something free. It is. And then we have our conclusion, which is what we're doing now. And so, again, like I said, the students will understand this if you train them. They'll know when they come into a testing environment that that white sheet of paper is not just there to draw on, but it is there so that they can actually go ahead and put in all of their ideas and all of their questions and go from question to question. All right. So wasn't that fun? Wasn't that fun? Just revisiting something again, because hopefully it triggered in your mind what you can do with annotating text with your students. And remember, you can use this in any subject area, because remember, we want to get our students college ready. That means they're going to have a major test in all subject areas, and they need to understand how they can best utilize the skills that they have. Just a white blank sheet of paper. A white blank sheet of paper and a pencil, that is all they need. And if they know how to use it correctly, instead of putting their name, doing all that beautiful artwork, or just one number on a page and not even checking their answers, okay? If they know how to really use this correctly, and they have been trained in it, and they do it every single day, I guarantee their scores are going to shoot through the roof. Woo, that was a tongue twister. Okay, so join me for my Zoom session. Talk to Miss Odom, And Ms. Blunt, give them a hug, high fives, and definitely say hello to Dr. Manshala. All of us are here to help because we're all in this together. So I just want to say I love you all. Join my session. Don't forget the secret word. The secret word. That's in the video. And don't forget to put all that into that Google form so you can get that professional development right in Frontline. All right. I'll talk to you later. I love you all. Toodles.